at 11 a.m. I am hosting a regional training for you weekly. And this week is about immersive farming strategies to help you become the local expert. So I'll be giving you tips and tricks around other types of technologies you can use and strategies to help you win. See you then.
Awesome. Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you.
We keep adding content to our YouTube channel. We're going to be putting some replays from the Rocky Mountain Summit on there. We're putting our blog on there. So check at KW Region 7 on YouTube for more content. Save the date if you're an ALC member or a prospective ALC member. We're going to be at the Ritz on November 3rd in Denver. This is invite only, so check with your TL. Don't just show up there. Check with your TL or your leadership team about that. All of our events are at kwcoloradoevents.com, and you can follow us so that you stay up to date on all of those things. Cato. I don't see Cato.
He's here.
Sorry, just had to unmute.
Take it away, Cato.
Can I get this screen share? There we go. All right, give me 1 second, get set up here. All right, can you see my screen, Russ?
Yes, sir.
All right, just want to make sure. How's everybody doing? Happy Indigenous Day. Let's see. GDP, the numbers for Q3 won't be out for a couple of months, so this slide's not going to change for this month and next. But we are expecting that we will see an increase. The Atlanta Fed saying 6% for Q3. That's both good and bad. And what I mean by that is if GDP is going up, then inflation's probably going up with it, which we have seen some upticks in inflation lately. If you take a look at what happened in August, you can see that it did go up. A huge amount of that had to do with transportation, housing staying pretty similar right now. We are looking at Q4 actually being stronger than was expected by the Fed. We'll get into that in a few minutes, but what that means is that we do expect to see more Fed rate hikes before the end of the year, at least one, possibly two, as we move in, especially with the no change in September for the Fed rate. So one of the stories that came out last week that is important to understand, and it may sound great and it's not, is that the U.S. employment surged last week. We were high above expectations. The problem with that is what you have to understand is if jobs are doing well, people feel safer and they'll spend more money. So we get the higher GDP, we get people who are going out, spending a lot of money in Q4. All that does is increase inflation. And what that means for us is that the Fed needs to raise the prime rate. Well, as they do that, that will affect how mortgages are and will help shut down the industry a little faster. Now, one of the things to look at as well is that the excess savings from COVID, all that money that we gave everybody basically is expected to run out at the end of Q4. So that's one of the things that they think is going to start more of the surge in the shopping season. In fact, retailers are saying they're actually starting to see more retail shopping for Christmas right now than they typically do. So those numbers are going up. People are spending the money before they get rid of it. Colorado is basically just following the national average for unemployment. We did a little better last month than everyone else. But the next piece of it that we have to look at is as corporations are hiring more people, the other thing you have to look at is the debt that these corporations, and I'm talking the big blue chips and some of the other larger companies, hold. When they got their coupon rates on their bonds, they were at 3%, 2.5%, 4%, things like that. Well, a lot of these come due in the next 12 months, meaning that they're going to have a balloon payment and then they have to rebond this money. This money will be rebonded at 400 basis points, give or take. I mean, it might be 350, it might be 500. The problem is we will probably see quite a few larger corporations filing for Chapter 13 and just, having all kinds of financial issues in the upcoming months in 2024. I've included an article from Goldman Sachs. Kelly will send out the slideshow. If you get a chance, read it. It will give you a good understanding of what we're expecting in 2024 with some of the corporations, and it will give you an idea of what we need to look at for layoffs down the road as well. 5 banks last week got downgraded by S&P. Moody's downgraded them just slightly earlier. Key Corp, Comerica, Valley National Bank Corp, UMB, and Associated Bank Corp. All 5 of these are basically running at a loss right now. The likelihood is over the next couple weeks, you're going to see news stories come out about JP Morgan Chase and a couple others starting to absorb some of these banks. We might have a couple more bank failures, however, between now and the end of the year. If you have any contacts at these banks, get a hold of them and start watching the other regional banks that are in the area, because they're going to need to get rid of some of their assets. So they're going to need REO agents, which helps you guys get more listings. So pay close attention to that. One of the other things to keep in mind too is Russia, September 21st, stopped selling crude oil outside its own borders and basically, or I should say, slowed it down. To completely stop, slowed it down. Now, part of that is because the sanctions are working, but part of the problem that causes for us as Americans, for Europeans, and all over the world is Russia puts out about 500,000 barrels of crude a day. Russian oil is usually found in the permafrost in Siberia. During the summer months, that's kind of a swamp land. You can't really drive over, can't do much. During the winter, it's really cold. Now, the pipes that are underground that are in the permafrost are fine at the moment. However, if they don't start moving that oil, the oil gets stuck. There's a lot of oil in crude, a lot of water in crude. And what happens is it starts to break wellheads along the way. Russia doesn't have a big storage capacity. So if Russia doesn't start selling crude, we're going to have 500,000 barrels going off the market every day. This is not a good thing for the world. The reason I say that is that basically makes it to where oil could go up as far as $280 a barrel, which comes out above $7.50 a gallon here in the Denver metro area, just to give you an idea of how that translates. And the last time that this happened was 1992. It took them 29 years to get the pipes fully up and running again. So realize that could be something that would become more permanent. That would cause a lot of issues, even things like just getting groceries to the grocery store that raises the price because of crude futures. So something you want to see. That all being said, if you've watched me for any length of time, I've said there's not going to be any type of soft landing from this. And when we look at this, we look at the probability of a recession in 2024. If you look at where the 40% line is here, you'll notice that with the exception of 1967, every single time we've hit that number, we've had a recession right after it. And I want you to see how far we are above that line right now. This is the longest period that we've had in this sector. So while we're doing a good job, while the Fed's doing a good job keeping the recession at bay, to some extent, it may be something that just causes it to be delayed a bit. And delayed isn't necessarily the best thing, because what it does is it depletes people of their money now, and we don't get through it as quickly. Looking at the inverted yield spread, I just wanted to show you a little more of what's going on here. You can see this is the 2020, 18 through 20 era here, and then you can see how much deeper we are here. So it's just understanding that this is going to get a little tricky. What this means for you guys is that you're going to have a lot of clients who they're running out of money. Groceries and everything else is costing them more. They're trying to figure out how to get everything done. They may need help from you getting rid of a property or two along the way. I've added this one in just so you guys have it for a reference point, so you can understand what's going on with consumer settlement, the CPI, and the Treasury, just so you can compare them to understand that what I'm saying is there won't be much of a soft landing from this. And for us in the industry, that's good. It's bad for the nation. It just means that there's going to be a lot of homes for sale in 2024. Mortgage rates. So the Fed did not change the rate in September, which is about where this red line is. But what you can see is that the banks still rose rates in anticipation of another rate hike before the end of the year. So the banks are already pricing this in, and they may even do another increase right before the next Fed meeting. So just something to keep in mind there. Case-Shiller, you'll see that, like I told you, this arm will go up. We'll see it go up for at least one more month, and then it'll start to taper down a bit because this runs 3 months behind. But I don't think we're going to hit the zero factor on the Case-Shiller before we see it start to slough down again. Nothing changed in the last Fed meeting really for the dot matrix. They're all thinking that the rates will go down toward the end of 2024 and continue to fall somewhat from there. So that just gives you a little brief idea of where the Fed's thoughts are at for the market. Looking at mortgage applications, I just want you to see that they're definitely falling quite a bit over the last few weeks. So if you have a listing, make sure it is priced right and that you're hitting your days on market. If it's not, have a serious talk with your seller about lowering the price, because we do expect to see mortgage companies raising rates. You saw this one last month. I'm just putting it in again, just to show that the consumers do not feel that it is a great time to buy. So you really need to be up on your scripts and dialogues. Make sure that you're working with people who are in life change situations. So spend some time, I kid you not, prospecting at, Bye Bye Baby or Bridal Places, those places where you see the changes in people's lives that they're typically going to want to go out and buy a house. So in Denver, our median price actually went up a little bit in October, which is kind of nice. It's more stabilized than anything because it's less than 1%, but we went up 0.69%. Closed homes are down 20.88%, volume 20.38%. Months of inventory, we're now to 2.4 months. We're almost halfway to being a balanced market. And what that means is even with buyers and sellers. So it is still a seller's market right now, but we're quickly moving toward a balanced market. Median days is 14 and active listings right now is 7629. So that's good that we have more inventory on there. So start looking for more buyers that can afford these rates. Remember, marry the house, date the rate. Again, rentals is a great way to find clients right now, letting them understand that they just want to put a little more down so their cash flow positive. When they turn around and refinance, then their cash flow looks even better. So go ahead and really start looking for people who want to become landlords. We're going to have a huge number of people who are landlords who need to sell, who have tenants in place, who they were at slim margins, and as they're refining some of these arms, they're going to come into an issue where they can't afford it anymore. So having someone who can come in with more money down, they'll be able to negotiate a great price. Again, landlords make a heck of a lot more net than a renter does. So you want to get your people to own rental properties as much as possible to help them grow their portfolio. All right, you've seen this month after month. I'm guessing you'll probably see it for a couple years now, just looking at what's going on in the market. Make sure that you're priced to be in the market, not on the market. And then make sure that when you're putting your pricing there for your listings, that you are pricing within this area here so that you are in the market. So if you're out with buyers, I got this question last month and I thought it was a great question. How do you utilize these charts? You're looking for the people that are out here that you can talk down on price, because if they're priced well and in the market, they are moving. They're moving very quickly. But we have a lot of people that still think it's the year-ago market. So start looking for those. Look for people who have been on 90 days or more. We're getting great deals on those because we're dropping $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 off, and our agents are getting those sold. So take a look at those as you go through. Here's what you need to do. Again, call your sphere 3 times as much. Everybody's starting to get nervous, especially with their money running out. Make sure you're the expert in pricing. Go on at least 3 listing appointments a month. Practice your scripts daily. And I changed the one here and I put it in orange for October. Prospect all the banks, look at their ALLs and their tier 1 capital. And if you don't know what that is, then you can email me and I'll explain it to you. But a lot of these banks are going to start needing agents to help them offload some of the product that they have coming back in. So make sure that you're the one that they're talking to versus an agent from another company. Russ, back to you.
All right. Thanks, Cato. We've got, before we move to our guest speaker, KW had a major meltdown on the MyKW Winmore system today. So we do not have agent rankings to share. However, we will put an extended version of that, Kelly, on social media under my name later today, I think, if the reports come up. So as soon as they come up.
Okay.
Think we can get that done today, Kelly?
I would say it depends on if KWI can get it fixed today.
As soon as it's fixed, we'll have it out to you. Sorry about the delay on it. Our I can't click. Our guest speaker today is John Sprague. Is John here? There he is. John's a MAPS coach. And John, are you going to be sharing your screen?
You know what? I don't need to share any screen. I just get to go ahead and have a fun conversation with you guys.
Awesome. Take it away, sir.
Thanks for having me, Ross. So guys, a little bit about myself here. A father of 3 incredible girls. I believe that the Lord decided that I wasn't ready for boys yet. And I was blessed with 3 there, and 17 years of marriage now, guys. So I'm excited about that. Professionally, I'd characterize myself as a recovering entrepreneur. And you know, there's an acronym that I like to consider here, that most of us have some variation of motivation or some underlying drive here, and it's TOMS, right? So time, opportunity, money, and stress. And what I recognized before my ego was promptly humbled in the Great Recession, I started to realize that the way that I was approaching my business was taking me more time to get to the desired goal. It left a lot of opportunity on the table. You know what? It wasn't as profitable, and it induced a lot more stress. And you know, this conversation isn't about me, but to give a glimpse of that path. 2006 was a year that, like many producing individuals, it was always a production problem, right? So I was just focused on production. And I remember buying a new car and thinking to myself, well, that's just 5 or 6 more transactions. Got a new home. That was another 8 to 10 more transactions. Got married. I still don't know the number of transactions that is, but that was more transactions, right? And then, of course, had to get all the luxuries, right? We'd end up buying season tickets for the Cardinals season tickets. It was their first year in a new stadium, and you know, the idea was just to get if I could get one additional transaction out of it, it would work. And guys, I know that you guys are familiar with what happened there shortly thereafter, and I would say to you guys, there was a massive gift, right? It was a massive gift to really kind of see things through a different lens that the Great Recession provided. And but I can tell you that I didn't see it that way at first at all, right? As a matter of fact, the anxiety was emboldened really by the ambiguity, right? Found myself asking, well, I mean, we're doing a lot of production here, even in a downturn in market. We're doing a lot of, where's the money? Where'd the money go? And you know, just kept asking, what needs to change? What needs to change? And that was truly the conflict, or really I should say the friction that created the conflict that allowed for the change there. And that's when the ego got humbled and was able to ask, you know, or stop saying, I already do that, right? That's when that's where growth goes to die. When I say I'm already doing that, right? And it made me think of, there's a great quote out there from Winston Churchill: in times of change, experience could be our worst enemy. right? And this conversation, as I mentioned, guys, is about our journey here, right? And after 3,000 recruiting consultations and well over 5,000 different coaching consultations, I found that my journey wasn't that different than many of the top agents that were out there. And what I realized here as we went through the Great Recession, and by the way, guys, I'm not aligning this up to be anywhere close to that experience, but there's a lot of great lessons that came from that. Is that there were three camps that really started to present themselves, right? There was the proactive camp, the reactive camp, and then the inactive camp. And the proactive camp, they just took extreme ownership of the reality, right? Cato gave you a phenomenal reality check of, hey, here's everything that's happening, right? They ended up going ahead and taking extreme ownership of their mindset, their actions, and they quickly remargined their business, right? Just as you see outlined in the Shift book here, right? And they got into massive action. Reactive camp. By the way, that proactive camp, they saw banner months after months, year after year, right? And just as we've all known here, they've taken market share that they never get back, right? But then there's also this reactive camp that showed up. And these were individuals that they became masterful in creative avoidance. They lived in the 80%. And what happened all too often there is it was robbing Peter to pay Paul. They made it through, by the way. They made it through, and it was a challenging month after month after month, right? And then you had the inactive camp, and that's that camp. They just did not acknowledge that the market had different demands on them than the market beforehand. And I think you guys can all agree that the market has effectively changed our job description in multiple ways, right? 18 to 24 months ago, we were lead receivers. Now we're lead generators, right? 18 to 24 months ago, we were order takers. Now we're fiduciaries, right? And so we've got an opportunity right now as we're presented with potential turbulence that we're made for this moment. This is the moment that we're made for. The people that are on this conversation here should be just bubbling with excitement about the opportunities in front of us. Is the leaders had some tremendous opportunity here, and here's really kind of the takeaways that I had. They had a reality of what was going on in the market. They recognized that as the pain of being in the market rose, then the people that they had to serve, the pain of being outside the market had to be higher, right? And so they had to look for the most motivated individuals. And when you look at it here, they also were very clear about the transactional adjustments, right? In Colorado, Russ, you were kind enough to share with me the multi-year trends from the peak of 2021, right? The reality is the number of transactions are off nearly 36%, right? And now to give you national perspective, guys, there was an article that came out and then right around, I guess, July-ish, somewhere there. And the report was that for every 1,000 rooftops, every 1,000 doors, 14 of them changed hands. Now we could extrapolate that and assume that another 14 will change hands in the second half of the year. That would mean 28 out of 1,000 homes, or 2.8% of the population are moving, right? So that would take roughly 35, a little over 35 years to liquidate 100% of the inventory. Now, to bring it into realtor speak, what that means here is on average, people are trending to live in their home for more than 35 years. Giving some perspective around that, before or actually right in the pandemic in 2021, it was reported that folks were living in their homes on average 13.1 years. So the reality here, guys, is that we've got a position here where we can either work 265% harder or we can work 265% smarter. And one of the things here, when you reflect back on those folks that had tremendous success in the last major shift, they exhibited tremendous, what I now have learned is called psychological flexibility, right? Looking at all of those prospective challenges and seeing the opportunities in there, right? Just as I was listening to Cato, there's a few that he mentioned there. Asset managers, right? Mentioned that there's going to be a lot of opportunities with expired listings from agents that are not communicating with their clients about what's happening there. Others are going to get overwhelmed with some of the having a poor media diet. Landlords can give you a 5-step success, right? There's tremendous opportunities there. And here's kind of an interesting piece though, is that one of the biggest delineators, the biggest factors that I saw is that they started thinking big. They started thinking illogically. right? And this sounds really weird. Anybody who knows me knows I'm a super evidence-based person. So now when I started looking outside of evidence, right? I said, what's going on? They said that they wanted to be the pattern interrupt. And so actually there's been a recent book that's come out that's kind of getting a lot of fanfare, and you guys might have either read it or at least heard of it, is 10x is easier than 2x. And in there, the concept is that there's this 2x thinking, right? The 2x thinking is that we're going to double up whatever it is that we're looking at, right? Whatever we're doing, we're going to double whatever it is, right? And there's a few adjustments that might need to be made to achieve that. And when you look at that, there's many paths to go ahead and double that opportunity. It becomes confusing, it becomes complicated, right? It doesn't fully bring clarity to what the most important activities are, and it's heavy. And at the end of the day, it's just harder, right? But then 10x, what ends up happening here, those 10x ideas or goals, what ends up happening is that the goals are so big that it has to inform the plan. Our previous way of thinking, right? It doesn't. We're thinking it's impossible the way that we've currently done it. Now, I'm not talking about just revamping everything that we've done, right? But it starts to go ahead and ask ourselves better questions, right? I mean, if you really think about it, the greatest reframing we can do is that of our identity. Our identity is nothing more than the questions that we ask of ourselves and how we answer those, right? And so if we start using these big goals as great questions, specific questions get specific answers, right? And then we start seeing that the way that we step up in those critical moments becomes radically different. We measure that growth. And so now I will tell you here, though, there's two caveats that I've noticed as agents in our roster have really kind of taken into to this line of thought. And there's been actually every single agent that we've had a conversation with around this very subject matter. So just the fact that you guys are having some conversation and dialogue, I can see in the chat box that you guys are engaging in these concepts, tells me that you're going to see growth in your business, right? And at minimum, you're going to have this linear growth, right? The deeper you go into this, the more of an opportunity you've got to see that geometric growth in today's market. And so I can share with you that the folks that, and just in our 45, 50 different top CEOs across the nation, every single one saw at least the linear growth around this concept. Those that really engaged it and took it on as a way of thinking, they started to see this compound effect, right? Now, I will tell you there's two caveats, though, is the folks that didn't necessarily have the highest level of success. So this are the two things I jot down here is that, one, we had to have the courage to defend our boundaries. Here's the crazy thing, guys. When we start getting into this massive action type of ideals, right, the first thing that start to go ahead and come under attack are the things that we actually value the most. So if we're not clear about what we value the most, that they become threatened, right? So our faith, our family, our wealth, our health, right, making sure that they're in our calendar and that we're actually defending them. And so then what ends up happening here, the second piece that they want to go ahead and how they've had the most success is by default, we're programmed to look at the achievement and the lagging indicator, right? How are we doing in this measurement that happens to be a lagging indicator, whether it's GCI or profit, right? Or closed transactions. And we start measuring ourselves against that, right? Comparison is the mother of all suffering, right? So we start comparing our activities to the lagging indicators, and we see an inequity there. And so what we've seen, the folks that have had the greatest success starting to constitute these concepts into their world is that they're starting to look at what are those critical moments. They're looking at they're reflecting each day. They're using incremental commitment to look at what are the critical moments in the day. How did I show up in those critical moments, and how do I expand on them, right? And I can give you an example of this thought process that you guys would probably be able to relate to. So I'm curious from your guys' perspective. On average number of agents, average agent out there, what's the number of conversations you think that they're having each day? Just throw it in the chat box. Whatever you think your number is. What's the number of conversations each day that you think that they're having? Got a couple? 15, 3, 5, 10-ish. Yep. Keep going, guys. Let's see 3 or 4 more out there. Yep. Brendan, I love you. Allie, probably right. Right. So this is my informal survey here, is it's roughly 10 to 12. 10 to 12 conversations. These are individuals that are engaged in their business. That I'd say the top 20%, right? So if you looked at the national average, it's probably 1 or 2, probably closer to that, right? So let's just walk through this thought process. So if I were to go from 10x or 2x thinking there, if I said, all right, if I wanted to go from 10 conversations to 20 conversations, rattle off one thing in the chat box that you might do differently. Just what's one thing you might do differently to go from 10 conversations to 20? Party more like that. Double the dials at the time. Wake up earlier. Yeah. So here's what would end up happening, guys, right? So we'd have this dialogue. We'd have a mastermind, all these different things. This is awesome. Keep going, guys. Like if you're in a conceptual thought here, keep going with it, right? You got the flow going, go. And so we'd have this conversation, and then ultimately we'd say, all right, what's the 1 or 2 things that I'm going to do differently to go ahead and get to the 20 conversations a day, right? And maybe we do it, maybe we don't, but all our brain hurt is to go work harder. I don't know about you guys, but from what I see is that most of us are putting in a solid amount of time here, right? As a matter of fact, Jason Abrams is in a conversation just this past week, and he was talking about how right now we see a lot of this kind of going on, and agents that are just diving in, working harder and harder and harder. He fears that when we have that opportunity that opens up that we can't necessarily time, they're going to be so taxed and they're going to be so exhausted, they're not going to be able to take advantage of it, right? And so the focus is on truly working smarter there. And so what we might do is we might work harder. Maybe it makes an impact, maybe it doesn't. Now I'm going to flip the switch here a little bit. Now let's say it's 10 conversations a day, and now we're thinking about doing 100 conversations in a day. Now what would you do differently? How does that impact the approach? Now all of a sudden what it just did there, yeah, yep. Ooh, I like this, Jeff. Love this. By the way, guys, just look at the chat box. Look right before even what Jeff had up there, everything was outbound, and then all of a sudden, whoa, now I got to figure out how that totally changed the dynamic, didn't it? Totally changed it. So this is a concept and way that we can use this pathways thinking to go ahead and have a larger impact on our world, right? And so at the end of the day, right, if we're going to go ahead, we think in bets, right? There's a book called that, right? And the idea here is that if I'm going to go all in on the few areas, they're going to have the highest level of probability of success, then it's got to be the right activities, right? So if my business is designed to go ahead and bring profit in the door, right, what's that leading indicator that I probably want to bring my focus to? Is it working with buyers or is it working with sellers? Anybody? Bueller? What do you guys think? If I want to bring, this is something I'd write down, guys, is that this market right now, there's 100% that this market is going to create more uncertainty in our world. Can we all agree to that, right? If that's the case, then our objective is to bring more certainty to our business and to our clients, right? When the market provides more uncertainty, certainty becomes a premium. If you're looking for a mofer, go figure out what's going to bring more certainty, right? All right, so we've got sellers by a resounding opportunity here, right? So here's we all knew sellers that was the direction. Sellers bring the buyers. I love that, Jamie. Yes. So here's what sellers are worth in your region, guys. This is what sellers are worth. This is what when you take a listing, particularly over the next 2 months, and I'm looking at November and December gearing up here in October. I'm not giving up on October. We're giving ourselves a runway, right? It might be the dress rehearsal for November and December. This is an interesting piece, guys. Every listing you guys took over as an average over the last 5 years in Colorado was worth 1.9 closings. 1.9 closings. Every listing you guys took was worth basically 2 closings, right? Every listing you took was worth $25,484.37 in gross commission income. Leadership, every listing your agents took was worth $2,227.60 of company dollar. That just took it to a different level for me. I don't know about you guys. Now I know, right? By the way, this is an interesting thing here, is that for us right now, confidence is our superpower. Right. And so what's interesting is that, again, people that know me in this world see me as somebody that really enjoys pouring into numbers. I can tell you, high school, college, beyond that, math was not my game. Anybody that would have seen it, that is not it, right? This guy is not a mathematician. There's power in the numbers. It's confidence because it replaces the false evidence that appears real with the real evidence, right? So now I know there's not a doubt. The evidence is in. Listings are the way to go, right? John, it's harder, right? Well, I don't know. I'm not sure that I'm going to buy into that, right? But here's the thing, guys. Here's what our leaders did in the past. Here's what I know that you guys are doing already, right? They got strategic. They narrowed their focus, right? They looked at the things that worked in the past. This is a really, really big piece because in this market, what I'm saying, the natural concept is, okay, hey, I'm doing this right now, and I got to figure out what else that I need to add to the equation, right? So if I've never done a different lead generation lever, now I'm going to start doing the lead generation lever, and now I'm going to get overwhelmed doubly, right? So the people that are having the most success in today's market and the last major shift, what they did is they narrowed their focus. What were the activities? What was the lead generation lever that they were having the most success with? They're asking themselves, how can they get more intentional in that area, right? Now, I think most of us might say this isn't across the board. One of the things that's beautiful about our industry and our business is that we get to go ahead and be true to our genius, right? And we get to go ahead and leverage that to go ahead and attract business once it comes in the door. However, for most of us, that lead generation lever is sphere of influence. And most people would say, I'm doing pretty good in that area or some variation of that. Anybody that's on this call, I know is doing pretty good in that area, right? Let's look at this. Guys, I'd love to know how many folks are in your database. Just throw some numbers out there in the chat box that meet this basic criteria, right? So the basic criteria of I've met them, I know what they look like, they know what I look like, they think of me in a positive way, and I've got some method to communicate with them. How many folks are in there? How many folks we got? 1,500. Any other numbers, guys? 127. Guys, this is one that all of us are going to want to play along in this exercise here. So what are our numbers? 2 or 3 more numbers, guys. 750, 500, 704. Okay. I love this, guys. All right. Now we're here. Now we're here. Okay. Okay. All right. So, guys, I'm going to have some fun with this, and I'm going to say 500. I'm going to average it out and say 500 for this. Okay. And so there's a concept called extreme Pareto, right? It's actually the principle of the one thing, right? And we've all heard of the Pareto principle that 80% of our results comes from 20% of our activities. Well, that's alive and well in every population. So if I've got an assumptive 500 folks in my sphere, right, then that would tell me that there's 100 relationships there that are going to yield me 80% of my business or of my referrals. Yes? Right. Now, by the way, market center leadership, we might be thinking the same thing in terms of our agent body, right? The agents that are in our market center, right? Those that are in our market, right? As far as referrals coming to us, right? So in the 500, there's 100 relationships that would yield 80% of my referrals. Okay. But now I can go further than that though, right? So I can take 100 of those relationships and there's still 20% of there. So what's the 20% of the 20%? So there's 20 relationships there, statistically speaking, that would yield me 64% of my referrals. But I think I can still go further, can I? So there's 20, what's 20% of 20? I think that's 4, right? So there's 4 relationships, statistically speaking, that would yield 52% of my referrals. What's some ahas going on, guys? What are we thinking? What's really interesting is that every time that we've had conversations around really massive goals, it becomes humbling, it becomes humbling that we can't actually accomplish those activities in the framework of time that we have. So it starts going from a what to a who. Same author, by the way. Who are the four? And make sure we spend time with that. Yes. Now, here's what's really interesting to me, guys, is that I've noticed here is that the folks that are doing pretty well in this area, they still might not fully give it the respect that's due. And what I've noticed here is that, like, let's just use, let's say most of these individuals, these four individuals, they're typically going to have, they're going to score really well in these two categories. One, they either have the social or professional influence to go ahead and refer me a significant amount of business, meaning that they can annuitize my business, right? And then the second one is that they're willing to put their reputation on the line for me, right? So they got to meet those two things. But based on the first one, what's a profession that would serve individuals that might be going through a season of life, a life event, right, that could cause them to move? Divorce attorney, Dave. All right, just like we practiced. Awesome. Now, there we go, the attendees. And by the way, if somebody has a link to the attendees, that'd be an awesome thing to throw in here. Didn't have that. Clergy, yep. I'm going to go with divorce attorney because there's a statistic that I know here, right? Is that on average, how many new divorce cases hit a divorce attorney's desk each month? Any ideas? By the way, each profession. Oh, Jamie, that's a big one. That's a lot. 100 cases. So the average on the national average here is six. So in theory, there's 18 transactions there, right? Here, but let's just go with the six. Let's just go with the six, right? So if there's 6 potential real estate transactions each month, really there's 18 potential, but we're going to go with 6. We're going to be conservative. And then over the course of the year, that's 72 pieces of prospective business. So Russ is giving him trouble. So there's 72 potential opportunities there from that one relationship, right? So now I'd be asking myself, okay, well, how many referrals have I received from that individual? And if it's not 72, what do I need to do to earn the right to get 10% of the capture rate? 20% of the capture, 20% of the capture rate, that'd be 14 transactions from one relationship. Now it might be starting to make more sense to spend more time with them. So now when I narrow my focus, it was mentioned earlier, we're going right down the 4 M's of lead generation, by the way, guys. We're just getting more intentional with it, right? So the first M is the market, who, right? So now I'm getting really clear with who I'm going to invest my time, money, and my resources with. Then the second M is going to be the method, right? So I've got face-to-face, voice-to-voice, I've got text-to-text, email-to-email, blah, 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 blah from there, right? Well, the statistics would tell you that every face-to-face is worth 10 phone calls. So if I want to deepen a relationship as quick as possible, then I'm probably going to have as many face-to-face conversations. Now I can share with you guys that the people that are doing this at the highest level, right? This is called demographic farming. The people that are doing this at the highest level, this isn't just a vertical in their sphere. They are recruiting these individuals. They treat it truly like recruiting, right? Now, Markers Center Leadership, you might have seen this in the past. You've seen nobody on this call, but from other folks out there, there might have been some agents that have been recruiting and they've just vomited all of the opportunities that KW has offered, vomited all the opportunities that the team has to offer, right? And the reality, we all know that people don't care about what you know until they know about how much you care, right? And so if we really want to go ahead and deepen the relationship with these folks that are cute, those key referral centers, we're going to go out there, we're going to figure out what is their point A, what's their point A, and what's their point B. Quickest way to deepen a relationship is to help people get from their point A to their point B, right? And at the end of the day, if we get, which now has 2 inherent challenges. I don't know what their point A is, and I don't know what their point B is, right? Which means I have to have a needs analysis. I can have a conversation with folks and ask, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Divorce attorney, estate attorney, probate attorney, right? Any of these number of folks that we're working with here, we talk to, now we're going to be in heavy conversation, minimum 50 conversations a week, right? Multiply it by however many are on our team, right? So that we're in conversation with a lot of folks, 100, 200, 300 people a week, close to 1,000 a month, right? for some of the teams here, right? And so now we're in conversation with a lot of folks. So we come across individuals that have a lot of different professional needs, and we want to make sure we align ourselves with the great best folks out there. And I just wanted to ask first, are you accepting new clients? If so, when could we get together so I could find out what the best client looks like for you? And we truly are sitting down with them, having conversations to identify what it is that they're looking for. Is this not a recruiting conversation, right? We're having a conversation of what's your point A, what's your point B, what's the pain point, how can I help you, right? What's interesting here is that there's the statistics that we see is that for every 10 conversations we have here, 4 individuals are going to say, hey, I really appreciate having the dialogue with you. Love to go ahead and retain some sort of relationship, but they're not interested in necessarily complicating going further and deepening the relationship, right? Now, another 4 are going to say, I love the conversation so much that I've already got a deep relationship with another realtor. And there's going to be another 2 that are going to say, hey, let's keep having conversations, right? By the way, guys, everybody on here, I believe, is at minimum a small business owner. Yes, right? And so now all of these individuals here that we're identifying, are they not small business owners? Yes or yes? So all the challenges that we have, they have. Do you think that they could benefit from career visioning? Yes or yes? Right? These are massive tools here that are making a huge, huge impact to annuitize your business, right? Now, what's kind of interesting here is that we just went in depth into one market there to be clear about, all right, hey, we might be able to have more opportunity here rather than saying, hey, I already do that. Say, hey, you know what? I've done that in the past and it's had a lot of success. How can I get more intentional with it? Right? If I'm going to put my money on these relationships, I need to make sure that they're the right relationships. I need to make sure that I'm doing the right things, right? So they're getting more strategic with it. One of the other things that we're that you'll see those top agents focus on is that the conversation has become much more proactive than reactive as far as prospecting based and then marketing enhanced. And then you're also going to see them that they're going to gamify the awareness, right? So accountability itself has this negative connotation, but when you start seeing them have the awareness of where those activities are, they start to gamify those activities. So we're looking for the live scoreboard here that we can go ahead and update. Where are we at in relationship to goal? And the biggest scoreboard that we can focus on, guys, right? So the heart of our conversation is the daily activities, right? The head, the mind is actually our pipeline. Our pipeline is going to go ahead and give us some insight as to, do I have enough opportunities in my pipeline to go deep in these conversations that can annuitize my business? Because that's going to take time to go ahead and build deep in the relationship to start annuitizing it. I might need to go into my now business here, win the short game to play the long game, right? Are we at a point right now beyond, for everything that we have pending right now, my guess is you could quote to me what that GCI looks like. Do we have that same level of clarity 60, 90 days beyond what you have under contract? And if not, what information are we missing from that pipeline that could give us a 90% confidence of what our cash flow looks like over the course of the next 90 days? Right? Because when we start looking at that pipeline through the lens, not just of a realtor, which is important because we want to make sure that we match their motivation. We want to make sure we match their momentum, right? And we also want to make sure that we're looking through that lens through a business owner and making sure that we can identify what does our cash flow look like over the next short while so we make the proper investments of our time, money, and energy into each of those areas. And, you know, the other area here is when we've got the scoreboard that's set up with that pipeline, our leaders from the past shift, they had a very specific cadence of accountability. And this is an area where you're starting to see a significant advancement and folks adopting those daily huddles, right? And these daily huddles can really create this winning culture of productivity where we're focusing on what's the goal for the team, right? And that's how we go from a group to a team. A group is a collection of individuals with individual goals. A team is a collection of individuals with a unified goal. And if we come together with listings taken as a team as the goal, then we can talk about, okay, what was our successes yesterday and what are our intentions today? The most critical question to be asking of ourselves, because who we are in the moment is as fleeting as the moment itself. We want to be asking ourselves, how did I grow over the course of the last day? In those critical moments, I'd argue that just by having an awareness of what the critical moments were are going to put you far and away beyond any of your peers, right? And they're having that critical conversation every single morning and they're seeing that growth. Tens start to attract more tens in those conversations, right? And they self-police the fives. Tens abhor fives, fives abhor tens, right? And at the end of the day, that's what we started attracting, right? We started attracting those the talent to the new standard. That standard is showing up, doing the work, reporting the work, and reflecting on the work, right? And here's something that I think is kind of interesting, guys. For your region, this is a tremendous opportunity to galvanize from a group to a team. And right now we're trending to take 1,113 listings over November and December. And the best couple months in November and December was actually in 2021 for the region with 1,541. Right? That's a difference of 428 listings. This is an opportunity for the region to galvanize and say, I'm going to bring a focus to listings taken. This is an opportunity for each of the teams on here to focus on the listings taken so they can have an incredible Christmas holiday and set themselves out in front of their peers in 2024 and explode out of the gate. And, you know, as we kind of look at this, it reminds me of one of the quotes from Robert Brault that we're kept from our goal, not by obstacles, but by a clear path to a lesser goal. So I'm going to ask you guys to consider what's the number of listings you would have to take in the month of November and December that would cause you to think differently? What's the most number of listings you've taken in any given month? And why can't that be the goal for November and December? And let that inform your plan. Thoughts, questions, concerns, excitements? I mean, these are just lessons that I've had the honor of having conversations with well over 3, 4, 5,000 individuals in our industry that are confronted with the exact same market that we are today. And if you guys haven't had a chance to go ahead and grab the book, I would highly suggest doing it. It is 10x is easier than 2x. I'll share with you guys a couple resources here. If you're looking to kind of build the momentum. So the first one there is the sphere of influence. It's an enrichment exercise. If you guys are looking for a tactical and practical way to take that sphere that you've got and reducing it down, right? That's a great tool to walk you right through it. We're seeing teams out there, they're inspiring their team members to go ahead and identify their top 20% of their 20%. And rather than having a Zillow investment, they're actually investing and subsidizing investments with their agents' top folks. You see the forward script, crazy thing out there, guys. But when you look for questions that you might have in a forward script, there's not a great tool for it. This is an open document. I'd love for you to go ahead and add any questions there. Last I looked, we were up to about 60 something questions in the forward script. That make me move script, that number that script you see there, for every 10 conversations folks are having with their sphere of influence, and it's a variation of what's the number that would cause you to consider moving. For every 10 conversations agents are having in today's market, 7 of them are actually giving them a number. 2 or 3 of them are somewhat in the ballpark. And of those 2 or 3, it's leading to 1 listing appointment or 1 listing preview, depending on how they qualify it. It's one of the highest converting scripts that I'm aware of right now. And then the third script that you see out there is leveraging buyer demand. So we might have a number of buyers out there that have interest in finding the right property. And it's a great opportunity for us to reach out to everybody that's in our sphere of influence, let them know on behalf of the folks that we're serving, what they're looking for, and seeing if there's somebody that we might be able to be introduced to. And the Zoom link you see there, over the course of the next 2 Wednesdays, the 11th and the 18th at 1 o'clock Central, we've got a 30-minute mastermind that we're having conversations to go a little bit deeper into these specific areas. Love to invite any of you guys there and your team members if that's something that you see value in.
John, when did you say those calls were?
It is Wednesday, October 11th and October 18th at 1 o'clock Central, 1 to 1:30 Central, and you guys are all invited.
Awesome. Thanks, John. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Colorado. See you soon, and we'll get those winners stats out ASAP. Have a good one. See you soon.
Take care, guys.